खर्च देंगे, नो प्रॉब्लम. हाँ ना, यू हैव योर ओन, नो प्रॉब्लम. ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ओम शांति शांति शांति. Abhi, come closer a little bit with your chair. Come. You also, if you want to sit on the chair, bring the chair closer. There we go. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambujanmane. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambujanmane. Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. Paramatma Dvayananda Purnah Purvam Swamayaya.
Paramatma Dvayananda Purnah Purvam Swamayaya.
Paramatma Dvayananda Purnah Purvam Swamayaya. Paramatma Dvayananda Purnah Purvam Swamayaya. Swayameva Jagad Bhutva Pravishajjivarupatah.
Swayameva Jagat Bhutva Pravishajjivarupatah.
Shruti. Swayameva Jagad Bhutva Pravishajjivarupatah. Swayameva Jagad Bhutva Pravishajjivarupatah. Yes. Now, we are going to stay on this verse for some time. Why? Because I have to cover 9 chapters. Which 9 chapters? Of the Panchadashi. First 9 chapters, because that's how he is starting like this. The first verse is all that is needed, because that is the whole Vedanta Shastra in a nutshell. This is Panchadashi Kara's typical style. Even the 7th chapter, you see, he will say, what is that 7th chapter? He said, Atmanam ched vijaniyat ayamasmi iti purushah tat kimichan kasya kamaya shariram anusanjvaret. This is a Brihadaranyaka Vakya. He gives that Vakya. That Vakya has everything. Ignorance, self-knowledge, all the issues, how to get over the issues, what do you get as a result, what is the life of a jnani like, and then what happens. The whole thing is there. And then he aram se takes 300 verses to unfold that one verse. Typical style. Here also, it starts with a big bang. Every chapter this is the big bang, literally and figuratively, because it's also talking about the cosmology, the Vedic cosmology of the universe. It's really fantastic. So, Paramatma, when Paramatma, my God, even to say that, sometimes you look up, get a crick in the neck, because locally not available. Where is this Paramatma? Atma barely I know, and already I am making so many mistakes centered on the Atma, centered on I, and then Paramatma where to go and bring, And then the pocketbook Vedanta, or Neo Vedanta as we like to call it, I don't know what is Neo about it, Neon perhaps, it just, self-shining. Anyway, so this Neo Vedanta, what does it posit? There is such a thing called Jiva, and they'll add Atma to it, Jivatma. And then what? There is Paramatma, and the two have to be understood. Jivatma has to become Paramatma. If Jivatma doesn't become Paramatma, then that is not a very nice thing. Something, This is called kapola kalpitam. When the skull bones, which are supposed to hold the grey matter together, they start to think. This is the kind of things we get. There is no Jivatma, there is no Paramatma, there is only Atma. Oh, don't tell me that. Then why would somebody as learned as Panchadashikara means the author of the Panchadashi, Swami Vidyaranya, why would he use the word Paramatma? Because he knows you will read it. That's the only reason he is using it. Yeah, we have to understand what it means. Paramascha asau atma cha paramatma. That atma which happens to be the whole. There is no such thing as jiva, jivatma and then paramatma, two different things, and one has to merge into the other. And when will I get Paramatma? Where is Paramatma? So this is all coming from the flawed duality of one's thought process. Why flawed duality? Duality is flawed. That's why. This is coming from the flawed thinking, which is duality of one's own thought process, because the thought process takes place with the subject-object. Subject-object, subject-object, subject-object. When it comes to Ishvara also, I am, a stupid jiva, and this stupid, tired, expired jiva is wanting to see that it comes to the wrong conclusion. I am alienated from Paramatma. I have to go to Paramatma, and different kinds of goings are, espoused in various traditions. All the traditions, they are just for the sake of, they are just glossy brochures for going to heaven. Come one, come all, let us go to Vaikuntha. We also have several versions of heaven. Let us go to Kailasa. For people who want the cool mountains, Kailasa. I don't know what Vaikuntha is, tropics perhaps. Yeah. And so like this, these are all glossy brochures. Do this, do that. And then they will give you some suggestions what to do when you go to the holiday place. As though you can't figure it out. But since you haven't been there, maybe you need some hand holding. So this travel brochure will say, day 1, because you'll be tired. Just go around, take a little stroll, and sit down for a Mediterranean dinner in this plaza, and then enjoy the cool breeze and order this pizza from this particular restaurant. We are in Italy now, okay? Yeah. And you are outside, and then what happens, You're in Venice, and you're, outside. Don't go and sit down anywhere. If you sit down, you pay 10 times the amount. Everybody stands, and I don't know what is wrong with Europe. You go and sit down, you are made to pay through the nose. So you are standing with all your holiday shopping in one hand and the pizza in another. One pizza with a few droppings, pigeon goes by, one more free dropping, This is what it is. So heaven is like that. Same things. All these things, do this, do that, and you will get there. And day 1, Rambha, Urvashi, duet. Music duet, this duet, that duet. And and then what happens? You come back, because the currency is what? Your own punya is the currency. Punya gone, Vapas aa gaya. This is the whole thing. Back, many happy returns. Come back. Come back. Take up another life. And in the other life, again keep wanting to go to heaven. So, the word Paramatma, from this kind of a thinking mentality, will always be something away, and it will be a special experience to have and to catch and to experience, as a result of which one, in trying to catch this experience, one lets go of the truth. This is what happens. What is right in front of you, you miss. because you're trying to overthink. Like that Sherlock Holmes story. What is that story? They both go camping. Who? Holmes and his sidekick. What's his name?
Watson.
Yeah, Watson's his name. Yeah. And, he wakes him up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Watson! Sherlock wakes him up. What? Watson is in the middle of a fantastic dream and he resents being woken up. And he says, look, what do you see? And he looks and he says, astrologically speaking, the moon is in Leo. Horologically speaking, we are, the ascendant is in this particular star. Meteorologically speaking, tomorrow is going to be clouds with partial periods of sunshine. Thankfully, no rain. And he keeps going on. Sherlock Holmes says, idiot, somebody has made off with our tent. The most obvious thing one misses because one is so convinced of that parokshatvam. Parokshatvam means remoteness of Ishvara, of Bhagavan, of that which is ultimate is so much away from me that I have to do something because, we just transpose the same things on earth. Here if something is away from me, I have to work hard. I have to keep doing something, keep doing. And the further it is, the harder I have to strive to reach it. So here also, where is Bhagavan? In heaven. Some traditions say. Heaven is a wonderful place. Bhagavan sitting in heaven, allowing us all to rot here. This is the thing with all this strife and, Isis. Until recently we thought Isis is a wonderful Egyptian goddess and suddenly it has become a killing machine. ISIS and all kinds of things. Every day, you get sick of the news because when you open the news, you get all kinds of, horrid stories. Nary is a time there is something at least nice, Yeah. Otherwise, it's all just very difficult things. And so that is what this whole Jagat is, full of strife, full of increasing violence, full of all kinds of things. And Bhagavan allowed us all here to just sit and have it out. And he, never a she, he, according to certain traditions, formless but has a gender, formless but a man, he is somewhere in heaven. What is this heaven? Where there is no strife, no problems. This is a sadistic God who is away from you. Sadistic God watching your torture with all these things and saying it's your karma. Me, I don't have any karma. And if you're really good, maybe I'll pluck you out. Like one plucks a fruit. So if you're really good, or if you say, I am saved, I'll pluck you out and perhaps sit you next to me. Then you ask, what will I do? You keep on staring at me in beatitude. For how long? Forever. It's not, it is all, even though they say, even though the feeling is the general agreement is God made man, I don't know about women, but God made man in his own image. We really make Bhagavan in our own image. That's what it is. We anthropomorphize Bhagavan in all traditions, even in our own tradition. Oh, today the goddess looks a little angry. Is she all right? Did I do Naivedyam? Oh, Bhagavan looks mad. Oh, today Bhagavan is happy when flower fell. Like this. We also have our own issues because, and these are all human issues, because we use our own infrastructure, which is tainted by duality, the subject-object, whether it's inference, all our infrastructure here means of knowledge. All our means of knowledge tainted by the subject-object difference in order to understand the truth of the subject, which is non-separate from Bhagavan, whose content is one and the same as Bhagavan. So that is why it doesn't work. That is why in the last Panchadashi class I said there is a value to apohanam. What is apohanam? Suspension. Yes, suspend the notions. Suspend your terminologies also. I don't want to hear it. Jivatma, Paramatma, this Atma, that Atma, Chota Atma, Bada Atma. People write like this. You know that there is one very interesting verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Uddhared Atmana Atmanam, Na Atmanam Avasadayet, Atmaiva Atmano Bandhuhu, Atmaiva Ripuhu Atmanah. So many Atmas, so little time. When you read the translation of it, lift the self, small s, by the self, big S. Lift the small self by the big self. And do not put down the self, small self. And then what? The self, small, big S, is the friend of the self, small s. Or the self, big S, is the enemy of the small s, self. After you read the translation, what do you understand? At least maybe in the Sanskrit some arthaspuranam took place due to Purva Punya. But here, everything is obfuscated. Same thing with that other mantra. Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate. You read the translation, that is whole, this is whole. You take the whole away from the whole, and whole alone remains. And a big hole forms in the brain trying to process this. Why? Because one is processing it with flawed tools, a means of knowledge that is of no use here at all. So should I suspend reasoning? Well, if by reasoning you mean inference, yes. Should I suspend logic? Unfortunately, the answer is any logic that is not in keeping with the Shruti's revelation, Shruti ananukula yuktihi, bye-bye. Because this is revealed knowledge. And if you want to derive Ishvara, Paramatma, etc. logically, then you attend a class taught by Naiyayika Vaisheshikas, logicians, and dialectical materialists. How will the logician derive Ishvara? Because logician means what? All men are mortals. Socrates is mortal, therefore Socrates is a man. No, the other way around. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is also mortal. This is, big revelation. It's not a revelation, it's a logical deduction. So how do you logically derive Ishvara? They have tried this. They will do this, and they will do this in sparring with some of the Vedanta texts. When they read Vedanta texts, they read it through their own filter, and this is how they will do it. Idam jagat aneka kartrikam. This jagat has been made by many forces. Aneka kartrikam. And you say, how do you know? Anekatmakatvat, but look at all the kinds, different, manifestations in this Jagat. How? What is the example? What is the hetu? Prasadadivat. Like when you make a palace, you can't just have one person, creating this huge palace. There should be an architect, there should be masons, there should be a supervisor, there should be bricklayers, there should be people who do the stonework, there should be carpenters who do the woodwork, there should be people who do the plumbing, who do all this, who do the landscaping, and who do painters, all these things. Then you have a huge palace. And Taj Mahal was made by 20,000 architects, people. That's what they say. Think of Taj Mahal and think of the universe. So therefore, idam jagat aneka kartrikam. This is how you derive Ishvara logically. Can't do that. So the first verse has to be listened to, through the Shabda Pramana as the means of knowledge. Using it is its own means of knowledge. It's not going to come in the way of other knowledges that you have gathered validly through using valid means of knowledge. It will accommodate them all because it has nothing to do with them. Its subject matter, what it's revealing, accommodates all of them, transcends them also. So the first verse is a revelation. And it is a reiteration of the revelation in the Upanishads, specifically the Taittiriya Upanishad. In its own way, it's an iteration, in its own verse, etc. And it has to be understood, not sparred with, because like I said, the pramana has many, many conditions. And one of the conditions is that when one pramana is being used, other pramanas are useless. The pramana is king in its own realm, and here the Shabda pramana is the king when you have to reveal something about the truth of you that cannot be intuited, that cannot be inferred, that cannot be, added on, that cannot be seen, that cannot be heard, that is not available for the means of knowledge. And that is why he starts off like that. It's a statement that has to be assimilated and understood. You cannot say, I object. Supposing Paramatma Advaya Ananda Purnaha. This Atma, which is really you, is Advaya, non-dual. Purnaha, complete and contented in itself. Anandaha, limitless. The very source of all joy, that is you. You cannot say, I object. What will happen if you say that? Your sanity will be in question. Why? Because that's what everyone wants to be. Everybody wants to be Purna, and everybody wants Ananda. Everybody wants Purnatvam. Everybody wants Ananda. What you want to be is revealed as what you already are. So this is not something you can spar with or argue with. This is not something you can contend with, because if you say, I object, what proof are you going to offer to say that this is not so? You will have to say with a straight face, I am the source of misery. I am not Ananda because I am the source of misery. Really? Yeah. You don't know my life. Oh, you had a hard life? Don't say had, I'm still having a hard life. Oh, poor thing. You mean your life is always hard? Yes. What about in the sleep state? In the sleep state also it is hard. Why? Because I can't go to sleep. No, that is still the waking state. Oh, then what are you talking about? In the sleep state, I told you there is no sleep state. So when you wake up, what time is it? It's not enough sleep time. That's all I know. This person is a hardcore, correct? Yeah. But even that person has to say with a straight face that in sleep there is no dukkha. Even the saddest person, you pluck off the face of the earth and have a conversation, they will have to say that there is vyabhichara, there is a contradiction in this statement, that that one is always sad. And if that is your nature, then we have one more argument. This is what is called Shruti Anukula Yukti, a logic that goes in keeping with the Shruti. What is the second argument that we have? Are you okay being sad? No. See, even the saddest person will say, I hate my sadness. But if that is your nature, I know it's my nature, then if it's your nature, you should be okay with it. Svabhavasya na nivrittihi. Anything does not give up its nature. Fire doesn't become ice. Ice doesn't become fire. So if Swabhava is there, it is unchanging, and that which is unchanging is what I want, and so if I am unchangingly sad, I shouldn't even notice it. But no, I am always constantly trying to fight it. This itself shows that this is uncontested knowledge. It cannot be contested by any other means of knowledge. It cannot be contested by one's experiences either. So therefore, what should I do? Just sit and listen. Oh, okay. So this is what is being revealed here in the very first chapter, and that's what he's going to talk about in detail as it progresses. Paramatma Advayah Anandah Purnah. Advaya means the only thing there is. Why? Because Panchadashikara doesn't want you to even think of the word Jivatma. There is no Jivatma, there is only Paramatma. But what about Jivatma? Keep quiet. Okay, yeah, there is no Jivatma. But what about me? You are Paramatma. Ayyo, how can I be Paramatma? I am just a, jaded, faded Jiva. Jaded Jiva. That's what I am. That is your conclusion. That is not the revelation. The revelation is that you are that there is only one thing, and that thing, let us call it Paramatma. Why? Because it includes Atma. Atma means what? You tell me. Oh, does it mean me? Yes. Me? Yes. So Paramatma includes me? Absolutely. But how is that possible? Keep listening. So the word Paramatma itself is a big word, because it is, Parama means limitless. It has no limitations. Swajatiya Bheda, Swagata Bheda, Vigata Bheda are not there for which? Advaya. That is what Advaya means. Non-dual. It is not, there is no separating factor. It is not made up of parts. Because anything that is made up of parts, what happens? It falls apart. Finished. It's not made up of parts, so it doesn't fall apart. Then what? And then, it cannot fall apart by itself. Swagata Bheda is not there. Sajatiya Bheda is not there. There are not other things like this. How many Paramatmas? Ekameva Advitiyam. That is what Chandogya Vakya. Sadeva Asit Idamagre Srishtehe Prak. Before this whole thing came into being, Sat alone was there. And what was the nature of this Sat? Ekam Advitiyam. Tat Sat Sa Atma. Tat Sat Sa Paramatma. Same thing. That Sat alone is Paramatma. And that Sat means that conscious being that is all existence. That is what is Paramatma, that self. And the word Atma comes from two derivations. Atti, that which eats. Atti iti Atma. Ad bhakshane. Second conjugation. Second conjugation verbs are very difficult. Each one has its own rule. Atti. And the other meaning is what? Apnoti sarvam iti Atma. Atti iti Atma. In the first instance, Atti means what? Eats. Who eats? I eat. What do I eat? Don't say I just had lunch. That's not what we are asking. What does the jiva keep eating? Karma phala. Karma phalani atti. Keeps on, becomes a karma phala hog. Becomes addicted to karma phala. Keeps on eating. Num num num, yum yum yum. Some more, some more, some more. Give me. One more yajna, little more punya to be generated, little more things to be enjoyed. Give me. This is what is called the jiva. And then what? That is the first meaning of the word atma. And then apnoti sarvam. Apnoti sarvam means what? Pervades everything, envelops everything, gains everything. Apnoti vyapnoti. Gains everything without moving a muscle. Why doesn't it move a muscle? Because it doesn't have muscles. Apnoti sarvam. Here it is Ishvara. And you see the same word Atma describes Jiva and Ishvara. So I can take my pick? Well, it's a choiceless choice. One grows from this Atti, this little fellow that keeps on eating the karma phala and wanting more and feeling incomplete and wanting more and feeling incomplete. One grows from this miserable, jaded, faded jiva to encompassing the whole universe and saying that everything that is here is me alone. Everything that is here is me, everything is mine, therefore I don't have to possess anything. Everything is an extension of me, therefore I can just be free. You see, in the derivation of the word grammatically, there is the journey of the individual has been so beautifully laid out. From Atti, from this bhogi, I become a Mahayogi. I become, I understand the truth of myself as Bhagavan. Going through myriads of loopholes, hurdles and obstacle courses called life. Several marriages and several failures and several failed marriages later. Finally, the journey from Atti to what? Apnoti. Sometimes they say Adatte also, doesn't matter, same thing. From Atti to Vyapnoti to Apnoti, from the mere eater of one's own little karma phala to grow to encompass the whole universe where everything is gained and I'm not a hog anymore. I'm not pigging out on karma phala, constantly addicted to karma phala. I am just free. What a nice growth. And the same thing in the word Purusha. So when you say Atma, Atma, before we go to Purusha, Atma, Atma becomes Mahavakya. First Atma Atti, second Atma Apnoti. Yeah. Same thing when you say Purusha. Purishete, sleeps in the city, sleep of ignorance. Purishayanam, Purishete means sleeps, in the city. What city? The citadel, this fortress called the body, mind, sense complex in which I feel trapped. That is the definition of this ignorant jiva. And then what's the next one? Sarvan Purayati, Purnatvat iti Purushaha, Ishvara. So the same word to talk about misery and limitlessness all in one word, and that's why we love Sanskrit so much. It's a language of economy and it's the language of Mahavakya. It's a beautiful language. Wonderful. Fantastic, isn't it? Yeah. Sadhu sadhu, Purusha Purushaha, Atma Atma. You can just go on. And so here the word Paramatma, that Atma which happens to be limitless. It's not that limitlessness is an attribute of the Atma. It is its very nature. But I have a question. What is your question? Which Atma are we talking about? Are we talking about Atti, which is limitless, or are we talking about Apnoti, the one there with a capital S? Are we I told you to keep all that aside. I tried, but I couldn't. I had to come here, so I have an urgent question. Can't wait till the end of the class. Which Atma are we talking about? Which is Parama? Is Atti or is Apnoti? That's why let's forget that. Let's go to the next word. What is the next word? Advayaha. That's how we Vedanta teachers get out of these kinds of questions. There is a trick. I'm giving away all the secrets. So, this is how we get out of these questions. You just let the text guide. You know, you don't insert yourself in and try to try to be sparring with this person. What is the next word after Paramatma? Look. Advaya, not Dvaya. Even though it looks like Dvaya, there is a hidden there. And it's a nod, it's a grammatical nod to Advaya, Advaita, which is also hidden in the so-called duality. You know, Advaya, Advaita is hidden. Like the Amrita Bindu Upanishad is going to say later, like the butter is hidden in the milk. You know, when you take that away, you have buttermilk. So butter is hidden in the milk, but then if you take what is that called? Lens, magnifying lens, and you say, where is it? Left hand side of the bowl there is the butter. Is it in the right hand side? Is it on the top? Is it in the middle? Is it in the bottom? Where is the butter hidden? What's the answer? Everywhere. In fact, the word everywhere is a useless word because even space and time are part of this whole thing. So where is Advaita in the Jagat? Same way. So where is, so when you say Paramatma, is it referring to me or is it referring to that big S, which I don't understand? Read the next word. Advaya. And then when you write it, you just have, do they have an avagraha here?
Yes.
Yeah. So you just give a nod to it. You give an avagraha, an S-shaped, thing. And what happens here, and then you give a nod to the silent which has been eaten up by the sandhi. Just like my understanding of Advaita is eaten up by the sandhis of the subject and object. By the constant interaction with subject and object, just like my understanding of Advaita is eaten up and all I see is Dvaita, Dvaita. Here also, very beautifully, grammatically, Paramatma Advayananda. So the next word is Advaya. So then who do you think it's referring to? The one and only. But you have another question? Yeah, I have a small question. Why do you have a small question? Because I am small. You're small? I mean, you look hefty. You look well built, hefty, and you don't look like you have skipped any meals. No, but I feel small. I'm surrounded by smallness. I'm dipped in smallness. So therefore, I have a hesitating small question. Okay. What's your question? Well, I understand that there is only one Paramatma, but is that me or is that is that one with a capital S? There is only one S, okay? Yeah. There is no capital, no small. And that is your capital. Alright? Yeah. Paramatma Advaya. Advaya is not an attribute, it is the very nature. Attribute means there are many Paramatmas. This one happens to be Advaya. And if you encounter another one, I don't know what that's going to be like. This one for sure is Advaya. No. So Advaya is the Lakshana Vakya. Lakshana. Advaya, Ananda, and then Purna are Lakshanas of this Atma. They are definitions and descriptions rather than attributes. They are not adjectival, even though they are in the same case, gender and number as what they qualify grammatically, Paramatma. And even though there is a agreement of number, case, gender, they are not adjectival. They are a definition. There is a difference between definition and an adjective. An adjective, according to Adi Shankara, gives a beautiful example in the Taittiriya Bhashya. Anaya, bring. What should I bring? You know, bring me a lily. Lily means what? You know, a lotus, lily, flower growing in the water. Utpalam. Utpalam anaya. Bring me a lily. Then I go, because I want to please Adi Shankara, and I go to the pond, lily pond. So many lilies, which one does he want? Then I go back to get more instructions. Brihat utpalam anaya. You know, or Mahat utpalam anaya. Bring me the big lily. Okay, that's easy. There are many lilies. This one is the big lily. But then when I look at the big lilies, there is more than one big lily. Then I go back for more instructions. Adi Shankara ji, what did you really mean? You know, bring me the big blue lily. Oh, why didn't you say so before? Okay, go back. Neelam. So blue lily, out of the big lilies, I have to choose the blue lily. Here also I am not very lucky, because there are many big lilies and there are many big and blue lilies. Now which one does he want? Run back again to the shore for more instructions. Sugandhi utpalam anaya. Neelam, Mahat and Sugandhi. So that which is, you know, blue and it is big and it is fragrant. Ah, that was the clincher, because there is only one big blue lily that is still fragrant. So pluck and bring. So there are many Paramatmas, many Atmas. We are not talking of Atma, I told you, I refuse. And then there are many Paramatmas. Only bring me the Advaya. There are many Advaya Atmas. How is that even possible? Out of that, bring me the one that is smiling, Ananda. There are many smiling, non-dual Paramatmas, and bring the one which is feeling full, Purna. The one that has just had its lunch. Okay, bring that. You see why the adjectival meaning makes us a laughing stock? Because this is not adjectival. Because you cannot have adjectives there is only one thing, and you cannot have adjectives, so you just describe it. Like the word Akasha. What is Akasha? Come on, don't be so spaced out. What is Akasha?
Space.
Space. See? Hint. So what is the definition of how do you tell what is Akasha to somebody else who comes from some other planet? You know, somebody, Curiosity rover, let's say, comes back to Earth, and somebody has hitched a ride, a Martian, and what's that? Akasha. What's the Akasha? Then you can explain, Avakasha Pradatra Akasha. Avakasha Pradata Akasha. Meaning that which accommodates is space. Is that a definition or is that an adjective? You decide. How many spaces are there? One there, one here. And you know, now that you mention it, I feel a little peckish. So one here also. How many spaces? Ekam Advitiyam. Non-dually one space, because the same space is here, correct? Yeah, and you go like this, it comes out obligingly. Same space is here, same space is in the stomach when you say I'm hungry, same space is here when you say I have brain fog, I can't think. Same space. And you cannot tell space, are you in or out? Like if you have a conversation with pot space here, and if you ask pot space, kutra asi, where are you? Antarva bahihi va. Where are you? Are you inside or are you outside space? If it is going to laugh. Inside and outside is only in relation to me. I am neither inside nor outside. Or you can say, that which is outside and inside is not outside of me. Avakasha pradata, akasha. That which accommodates is space. Very beautiful. So like that, when there is only one thing, you cannot either compare it to other things or you cannot have adjectives. So Paramatma is not great Atma. Compared to all other Atmas, this one is the Atma, you pluck it and bring it. No. Paramatma is the one and only that includes you because the word self is there in it. And how do we know it's one and only? Read the next line. Next word. What is the next word? Advayaha. And that is conveniently hidden as a nod to how, we take non-duality for granted in and through the various being stuck or being carried away by the various subject-object relationships. Advayaha, Anandaha, and then what? Ananda. Next word, Ananda. And that Ananda clinches it. It shows that it is talking about I. Because who needs Ananda? Not Ishvara. What is Ananda? Nand, to rejoice. Ananda here is that limitless joy. Limitless. Actually, it means Ananta. That's why talking about the Vastu, the Taittiriya Upanishad says, what does it say? Kim tad Brahma? What is that Brahman? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Brahman is nothing but Satyam, Jnanam and Anantam. Ananta here means what? Limitless. We don't even know anything that is limitless. Sometimes it is defined as eternal. Very difficult word. Because thanks to our prowess, we have made the word eternal time-bound. Why? Through our flawed understandings. Teenagers talk to one another. Where have you been? I've been waiting for an eternity. Has your mother-in-law left? No, she's an eternal resident. Has no thought of leaving either. When the guest overstays, becomes a pest, right? Yeah. Fine line between guest and pest. So like this, the word eternal has been compromised. So therefore we use the word limitless, because that's not quite, vitiated yet. Maybe in another generation we'll have to come up with another word. Who knows? But right now this is working. Limitless, ananta, antam na vidyate yasya. That which doesn't have any ending. How? Space-wise, time-wise, object-wise. Limitless. Space-wise, limitless. It's not confined to one space or another space, because we are talking of that consciousness, that sentience, the truth of myself, which is all pervasive. So for something that is all pervasive, there is no issue with space. Then time-wise limitless. Trikalepi tishtati iti sat. That which is unchanging in all periods of time, that is what we call sat. And object-wise limitless, this is something which is very much a technical Vedanta term. you know. And object-wise means it is not confined to being one object. Like this pot has object-wise limitation. It is this pot in, you know, this P for pot, this pot in T1. Pot 1, P1 is in T1 in this particular shape. It can't immediately at the same time be this pot from the standpoint of pot. Correct? Because this pot is occupying this space and this time in this particular object shape. And that pot is occupying that space that time. From the standpoint of clay, we are not talking. From the standpoint of pot, you know, that is what it is, object-wise limitation. All things in the universe that are manifest, you know, have these three limitations. And yet the Atma is revealed as what? Limitless. How? How is that possible? Because either the Shruti's statement is false, or I have to look at the nature of these so-called limitations. And the nature of these limitations are what? Are mithya. The word mithya we can use. We'll expand on that later. The nature of these limitations are not as real as the Atma. Space-wise limitation, time-wise limitation, object-wise limitation. They belong to the apparent reality. They don't belong to Paramatma. They are part of the projection. These limitations are part of the projections. They do not affect the one who is projecting. Who is the one that is projecting? That limitless consciousness. Paramatma, which includes I. That is what it is projecting. So Paramatma, Advayaha, Anandaha, which is Ananta. Ananta is only called Ananda from the standpoint of the human pursuit. What do you want? Happiness. When do I want it? Just for 5 minutes. No. How long I want to be happy? Forever and ever. And same thing, you know. How long you want to be happy? Forever. How long you want to be married? Don't ask. So in the marriage vows, even in the 7th marriage, they will say, this is forever. What happened to the other 6 marriages? That was not real. This is the real thing. Everybody is in search of the real thing. Even Coca-Cola has commercialized it. This is the real thing. And everybody is in search of the real thing. So the fellow getting married for the 7th time says what? This is forever. And when somebody is in search of a job, the first question they will ask is it permanent? No, you're on probation. Oh, I see. For how long? Permanently on probation. Will anybody take up that job? No. Go to buy a house. Then you see the inspection report. Everything is wonderful. Top quality teak for the doors and windows. Top quality, top-notch material. Only thing is, there are termites in the foundation. Won't buy, correct? Will not buy that house at all, because even the house, I want it to outlast me. Everything I want it to be permanent. I want everything that I buy, everything that I collect, every relationship into which I enter, I want it to be forever, 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 forever. Vedanta suggests that what you want is not the object. What you want is the forever, and since the forever is the subject, you keep missing the forever. Forever. The forever is forever elusive because you have projected the forever, which is actually the nature of you, onto the never forever. You have projected the forever on the not forever, and then you suffer forever. Because this forever projection, on the not forever, continues life after life after life, and then one is always one always feels that this knowledge is too elusive, too much, can't do it. What's the point? The main point here is to understand there is no forever outside of you. Oh, that's me? Yes. I am forever? Yes. But then I leave this body. What does that show? I am not forever. When those notions take root, that is the conclusion. There is one disease. It's actually a sad mental disease, mental illness, where the person is convinced that they are dead. It's a mental illness, kind of a disorder. And so, one such person was convinced, I am dead. And his friend came and said, no, you're not dead, you're talking to me. I am dead. And so the friend got very frustrated, took one pin and pricked his finger and said, look, you're bleeding. That shows you're alive. The blood is pulsing out. No, that doesn't show I'm alive. What does it show? Dead men can also bleed. Mandu, that's all. Stubborn, not willing to look at the facts. So the forever is you. Oh, but my body, I'm not forever because the body is gone. So what does that mean? That means I'm not forever. That's not the conclusion. That means I'm not the body. That should be the conclusion. So the forever is what I want. But that forever in a psychological transference, here it's a collective psychological transference, and that's how we can say, thank God it's not just me. This avidya causes collective psychological transference where I transpose the forever on finite things and then get frustrated. So what to do? Better to take a break. Come back. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Just some 5 minutes just to wake up if one is sleeping. Yeah, 2 o'clock at night. I'm not, taking objection to that. I'm not objecting to that at all. But what I am objecting to, or what I'm trying to correct here, is that it is the one and the same, because you cannot say that macrocosm is outside the microcosm. The microcosm is included in the macrocosm, and if that is the point you are making, we are in complete agreement. Okay? Yeah. Very nice. Yeah, we'll have one more session in 5 minutes. Nice to see all of you here. If I'm not this Nama Rupa, what is the purpose of the tools? The purpose of the tool is to interact with other Nama Rupas. Because that's what one is doing in the Jagat, correct? You are interacting with other Nama Rupas, and so you need the tools. Very good question. Vikram is asking the question, if I am not this Nama Rupa, then why do I have all these means of knowledge? Because you are interacting with other Nama Rupas. Yeah.
So we had gone to the fifth shloka and we were not come back to the first one.
A little jump sometimes. That's why you have to be limber in Vedanta. You jump and you bend. Yeah. But you see that, that fifth mantra, that fifth verse was very important because it got rid of a lot of notions and it's helping us to understand the first verse. Yeah. Unlike the Hali Deepa, this is backlighting. The backyard light from the fifth verse is shedding the light on the front lawn in the first verse.
It's setting off some memory bells about other things.
What?
It's setting off memory bells about lights being out in the front yard, actually. But no,
Yeah, if you have any more questions, you can ask. If animals are quote-unquote programmed by Ishvara, I suppose they don't accrue punya papa. Correct. It is just a bhoga sharira. Not good for yoga. It's only for bhoga. Because the previous punya papa they are working off. They don't evolve. The same jiva in the bank, in the Sanchita bank, the same jiva has endless amounts of punya and papa for all kinds of, what's its name, incarnations. So it's not that one dog is evolving from amoeba to dog to cat to all this, to human being. That is Darwinism, that is Darwinism influencing our thinking. So it's not that they evolve. We should ask the opposite question. Once that one is a human being, what causes them to de-evolve into dog, cat, etc.? And that's because the dog buddhi, dog desire, dog territoriality perhaps makes one a dog. Possible. And then what causes them to evolve? We are thinking they are permanently animals. No, in some other time they have been a human being. And they have had endless amounts of papa punya for every kind of incarnation. And so really, this is not some kind of a linear evolution. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. So, the usual confusion, Swamini Ji, is if everything is Atma, one and the same, then how come gods are so different and so powerful? Here you have gone to the second verse. Yeah, that is going to address that. But briefly, briefly what I will have to say about that is that it is upadhi bheda. The difference is not in the Atma, at the level of Atma. The difference is at the level of the containers in which the Atma as though is sitting, as though is housed. Yeah. Like even, take the example what we talked about earlier, pod space. We have to get out this little fellow. Oh no, here it is. So this pod space, think itself to be big. This pod space thinks itself to be small. And then what is the truth? That there is neither small pod space nor big pod space nor pod space at all. There is just space. So this akara called pot cannot trap space. And so like this, the akara called human being cannot trap this Atma, and the akara called Bhagavan or any kind of Ishvara or whatever cannot even, make this Atma any better than it is, because we are talking of the level of Upadhi. The Upadhi is the separating factor, but the separating factor is as though. It's not as real as the Atma. And there was there one more question? Then I suppose the Rupa has to grin and bear it till the Rupa disintegrates. Well, like it or not. Well, let me, change that a little bit. The Rupa grins. The Rupa bears it because the Rupa bears it but finds it unbearable, goes to a teacher, and the Nama Rupa gets the knowledge and learns to grin in spite of the fact, what? That one is as though in a body-mind-sense complex. Most often, a deeper reflection on the orders of reality resolves the confusion. Not just deeper reflection we can have when one has the teaching. You can do that. But first we need a thorough exposure to the teaching, to listen to this repeatedly, and then then one can reflect on that. Yeah. So we will do that, not a problem. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Paramatma Dvayananda Purnav Purvam Swamayaya. Paramatma Dvayananda Purvam Swamayaya. Swayameva Jagad Bhutva Pravishad Jiva Rupataha. So Paramatma Advayaha, and then what? Anandaha. And then one more word, Purna. This really clinches it. Advaya, yeah, fine. Without a second, okay, big deal. Only one thing. Fir kya? This is called the fir kya psychology. What next? Next, Advayaha. Alright. Anandaha. Oh, that's impressive. That's nice. Next, Purnaha. In fact, after Ananda, Purna is not even necessary. Because that Ananda, that limitless, means Purna. Purna, complete. So if something is limitless, it has to be complete. So why is the redundancy here in using the word Ananda immediately chased by Purna? It's not redundancy. It is to show two different things here. One is Ananda. It should not be mistaken to be a state of happiness, a permanent grin. First you bear it and then you grin. No. Neither it's not about a permanent grin plastered to the face. Ananda here means limitless. So the Purnaha is qualifying Ananda, that it is not the yo-yo, ecstasy, misery, that kind of alternating cycles of joy and sorrow. What is being talked about is Purnatvam. And this really clinches it. Because Purna means you cannot argue. It is complete, it is full, it is without a second, it is non-dual. And Purna here means contented. And that's what I really want. What I want is to be contented. And what I want is Parama. I want the absolute. I want the limitless. I want to be contented. Guess what? You are all that. But I want to be special. Well, you're not just one of a kind. You're the only thing there is. You're the only significant thing there is. You're the only thing of significance. Why? Because you are self-evident to yourself. Nothing else is self-evident. Pot cannot say, I am pot. It depends on me to say, you are pot. Pot tvamasi. It depends on me to listen to that. It cannot declare itself to be. That way, you look in the whole Jagat, nothing is self-declaratory. Nothing can declare itself. The whole Jagat, is inert, and I am the one naming the Jagat. I am giving Namakarana to the Jagat. Even though I say Jagat is Namarupa, I have named everything. Think about it. I have named for black hole. Nobody has even seen the black hole, let alone been in the black hole. Nobody has even seen it. It's all inference. Based on pratyaksha, eyes. No, we use a telescope. But eyes have to be functioning, no. Even to look in the telescope. So really it is based on pratyaksha pramana. And then these distant galaxies, I can measure the circumference, the radius, the diameter of the black hole. And I can say that this black hole is bigger than our black hole in the middle of the Milky Way. And then looking at inferring the gases coming out of the black hole, we can say what has gone in its stomach. It has just eaten another galaxy and the two black holes have merged. This is what it is. Sitting here, in an armchair, I can make inferences about things that happened 14 billion years ago with the help of Hubble, Mr. Hubble's, telescope. That is fascinating. That means what? That means there's nothing as significant as me. Even the black hole, which, has the power to assimilate this body-mind sense complex, this Namarupa, that black hole, no comparison, that black hole will prevail. This Namarupa is going to become, one with the black hole. But still, the black hole is not able to declare its presence. I am able to declare my presence. That is what is, that is what is being talked about. That's why that contentment is there, because I'm unlike anything else. I'm the most special thing there is, because there's nothing like me. There's nothing other than me. And there is nothing unlike me. So there is nothing other than that. And so this alone is the cause of, what I'm really searching for. That contentment comes from feeling complete. When does one feel complete? When I'm special. When do you feel special? When you are singled out. And here it is single, finished, Advaya. Non-dual, non-dually one. Even if you say you are only one, that one is subject to half, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16. It's so many fractions. Here, that which is beyond fraction, which is you. You are it, and you are unlike anything else. And your nature is Purnaha. You don't need anything to complete you. You don't need anything to compete with you. There isn't anything to compete with you. There is nothing other than you. There is nothing beyond you. All there is you. Yeah, you can sit there and say all there is you. You don't know what my life is like. All there is not just me. I have a horrid job with a horrid boss. Even at home things are means what? Children are teenagers. That's what it means. And even at work, in between home and work, hate the commute. Anything is like that. Are you happy with your job? What is this? Falling off a precipice. Means the pay is good, up. The boss is bad, down. Up and down, so. Literally balancing on the precipice. Leave the job. What do you mean leave the job? It pays the bills. Well, all right, just make peace. How can I make peace with it? I'm in pieces with this job. This is what it is. Then you get a little more up close and personal. How is the marriage? Don't ask. Something is not right. And then, how are the children? I refuse to engage in this conversation. So this is, you say it's all one. That's fine. You say that all there is you. I refuse to accept this. Forget belief. It's not a matter for belief. You say it's a matter for understanding. How do I understand that when I'm surrounded by so many instances which keep proliferating every day, which keep multiplying of not I, not I, not I, not I, not I. Boss, not I. Children, not I. Spouse, not I. House, not I. Each one has more problems than the other. And the not I proliferates. The not I does a takeover. And what happens to the I? Gone. Not I prevails. Not I rules. I gone. So there goes your Vedanta. Purnaha. What Purnaha? Apurnaha. That is my life. Because my time is taken away in bits and pieces, everything, chomp, 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 there. My peace of mind, chomp, chomp, little bits and pieces like that, Apple computer logo. Apple with a piece bitten off. I've never understood what that meant. One piece of apple must be bitten off. So like that my life is edited, abridged, punctuated and bitten off in places, and you have the temerity to say, this is you, this is Purna. How can you say that with a straight face? Don't you see that this world is full of strife, and don't you see that I am special, all right, I have been singled out for extra servings and extra helpings of what? Bad karma to make my life miserable. And yet you say Purna, forget it, I'm not even going to engage with you. And you say have Shraddha, just listen. What to listen? You sit in my life for 2 minutes. What is your life? Your life is fine. You don't have families, you don't have to deal with that. Somebody brings you food, you just sit and eat, and then you talk. What is there? You don't know my life. You may say everything is fine, everything is Purna, just go with the flow. What flow? There is no flow. And how can I go when there is no flow? Where am I going? This Purna, Shmurna, it doesn't exist. This is a very valid statement. Somebody has raised a statement here. So what shall we do? What we do best, go further. Yes, we can learn a lot from avoidance, except we are not avoiding here. This is not avoidance. This is a temporary deference to the Shruti, back to the basics, back to the Shruti. So Purnaha, what happened to this Purna? a very big thing came in the middle. Maya. Maya. Yeah. Swamaya. This Paramatma's Maya came in the way of what? Unfortunately, my life. I was enjoying my life until this lady, this shady lady called Miss Maya came into my life. But what is this Maya? Yama, sa Maya. Yeah, that's what it is. Ma means knowledge. She who is all knowledge is called Maya. All knowledge for whom? Paramatma. But you said I'm included. Yes, you are included. Don't worry, you are included. So I'm included in this knowledge? Yes. But then how come I'm ignorant? Who said you're ignorant? I didn't say you were ignorant. No, I only have understood I'm ignorant. How did you understand that? Because we studied the 5th verse. Kavichara krito bandha vicharena nivartate. We studied the 5th verse. So now, after studying the 5th verse, I have come to the conclusion, indeed I am ignorant. Now, you better answer this question. If I am ignorant, then how come Bhagavan is all knowledge? Because I am Bhagavan, correct? Didn't you say that I am included in Paramatma? Yes, I said that. Then you did, now Paramatma is all knowledge, Swamaya, all knowledge. Yes, that is also correct. Then how come I am ignorant? What to do now? You know? We have to put as though. You are not ignorant. You are ignorant. You were ignorant. You are not ignorant. How can you say I am not ignorant? Because you have started to attend the classes. You can never say I am ignorant because you are in the process of knowing. Since you have committed to the classes, since you have committed to the course, since you are attending the classes, then what happens? There is no ignorance. What ignorance? No longer are you ignorant. So that is a feel-good answer. And then the technique, that is to, what is that? To deflect the pain and to show that everybody is on their way, no problem. That is how you answer. And then the second answer is that ignorance cannot exist by itself. Ignorance presupposes knowledge. When you say I am ignorant, you know, of what? Correct? And that of which there is ignorance, that is knowledge. So ignorance is a time-bound definition of that truth of yourself which is all knowledge, which is timeless. So now the ball is back in your court. It is up to you to either define yourself as ignorant, time-bound, or see that you are in the process of growing to understand that you are one with all knowledge. You are non-separate from this source of all knowledge. This is your choice. See, this is how, this is how we look at the whole thing. Swamayaya, that Maya includes Ishvara's knowledge, and it's not outside the ken of your own ignorance. Well, this is beautiful. So this Maya means this all knowledge is so, it has no truck with ignorance. It's all knowledge. That is Atma, that is you. Because really when you say I am ignorant, what are you saying? I know that I don't know. Think about it. It is that all knowledge as Ishvara that is observing that I don't have self-knowledge. Even if you say I'm ignorant of pumpkin Pumpkin ignorance is, correct? Pumpkin ignorance shines as what? Pumpkin knowledge. Yeah, pumpkin ignorance is really the knowledge of not knowing pumpkin. So this ignorance is time bound. Really, it is only in relation to one specific thing or the other, and it resolves as soon as it's exposed to knowledge. It puts its tail between its legs and runs away as fast as it will go, as it can go. What ignorance? Because when you come and complain to me, aham ignorant, I am ignorant, then what you are saying is, I know. Janamiti tameva bhantam anubhati etat samastam jagat. This whole jagat advertises like there are megaphones everywhere. Janami, 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 janami. That's how you know, it's not just Bhagavan with his Maya is all knowing, you are also all knowing. What is the definition of all? That which I know, correct? Plus that which I don't know constitutes all. Do you know that all the things you know? Yes. Do you know that there are many things you don't know? Yes. That's all knowing. You can also say, aham sarvagnaha. Well, that seems like a stretch. Doesn't matter, practice. Aham sarvagnaha. Sarvam janati iti. Tad janati iti tadnyaha. You know, sarvam janati iti sarvagnaha. Ghatam janati iti ghatagyaha. Knower of pot ghatagyaha. Knower of fabric patagyaha. And then what? Knower of everything, sarvagyaha. And so Bhagavan you adore, sarvagnya, oh sarvagnya. And what am I? Alpagnya. Don't say that anymore. I'm not alpagnya, I am also sarvagnya. With a twist. That's all. Sarvagnya with a twist, or a twisted sarvagnya. Twisted in understanding, a sarvagnya that has gone awry due to avidya. Avichara krito bandha vicharena nivartate. What kind of vichara? This kind of vichara that we are doing just now. Through raising all kinds of questions. And you know, that's what it is. So Swamaya means Bhagavan's own, this Paramatma is not separate from this power. Bhagavan's own power is Maya, and she is the creative force, Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti Swarupini, who is in the form of all knowledge. Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, the ability to bring forth something, and then what? Ichha Shakti, the ability to desire, all that, the power. She is all this power, she is manifest as the power. And then what? She is all in all, and she is all knowledge that even includes my little ignorance. That's what it is. Very beautiful. Swamayaya. Swamayaya, what did Bhagavan do? What did this limitless consciousness and all knowledge as Bhagavan, what happened? Swayameva jagat bhutva pravishat. Yeah, pravishat. Swayameva jagat bhutva, quote unquote, heavy quotes, became the jagat. Paramatma became the jagat. That same jagat you just complained about, saying that the not I has proliferated the I, and the I is invisible, let alone Purna. It is not even visible. Only when something is there you can say Purna. If it is not even there, how can you qualify it by describing it as Purna? So this not I that proliferates and causes a bite in the eye, what is that? That is called Jagat. And what is that Jagat? Nama Rupa Nama Rupa Nama Rupa Rupa Nama Rupa Nama Rupa Nama. Can you translate that? Word and meaning. Word and meaning. Word and meaning. Word and meaning, word and meaning, word and meaning, word and meaning proliferated endlessly, infinitely, infallibly manifest. We don't use the word srishti, we use the word abhivyakti, manifested. Oneself has manifested. And that manifestation is what we are talking about as an infestation in one's life. The manifestation of Bhagavan, when I don't know, I see it as an infestation. Festering and coming in my way. And that is where the corrective surgery for the vision is needed. Because I am not understanding this manifestation and seeing each thing as separate leads me to conclude what? That all these things are coming to attack me. That's why the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, Dvaitadhi bhayam bhavati. Because of duality, there is fear. Duality gives rise to fear. That's why Purnaha Advayaha Paramatma Anandascha. Advaya. No bhaya. Advaya means no bhaya. Udaram antaram kurute athatasya bhayam bhavati. Means even if one makes the slightest difference between oneself and the other, and the difference is so slight, it's like the edge of a razor blade, ara, and still there is fear. The fear is not because there are many things. So the word, the vakya, dvaitadhi bhayam bhavati, has to be unpacked properly. Fear is not because there are many things, because there could be so many things. The fear comes because any of those things can be bigger than me and do swaha of me. That is the cause of the fear. The cause of the fear is being obliterated. So one is always afraid of something bigger than oneself. That's why all the small fish swim together and make a photo of a big fish. Yeah, they swim in a formation to show the these big sharks and all that we are actually a big fish. They swim close together and to give the idea that there is a big fish swimming. But the sharks also have lived in the water long enough. They know. And they will go and pick one up. Munch, munch. Oh, all of you have come together. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, everything has come. No problem. That's how it is. And then, then the shark is eaten by something else. And that's eaten by something else. And then finally that's eaten by this human being. That's what it is, shameless. And this is what the whole thing is. So small fish get eaten. And same thing in the birds, raptors, same things. They say early bird gets the worm. Look at it from the standpoint of the worm. The early worm gets eaten first. That is what it is. If you are a worm, don't get up early. Sleep in. Let all the other worms get eaten, you will survive. And so like this, the whole thing is each one is trying to escape the predators. Everything, the elephants have their own way because the elephant calf, is that what a young elephant is called? Calf. So the elephant calf, is small and compared to compared to what? Really? Compared to the full grown elephants. Today one news came from India. In Kerala, one elephant went wild. and in the middle of the road. It was a temple elephant. It had had it being a slave of the temple for so many years, and then it took the pickup trucks, you know, took one SUV, yeah, as though it weighed nothing. It was just pappadam, you know, flat. Made it into papad. That is how it was. And this is, you know, so compared to what? Compared to that elephant, the baby is smaller. But still, that small baby elephant doesn't know who are the predators. It has to live in the group along with the matriarch and get some life lessons. It has to observe, you know, how to hide, when to show oneself, how to camouflage, how to take the trunk full of mud and put it on oneself so that one looks like the scenery and nobody knows that there is an elephant going. I mean, it's hard to hide an elephant, you know. Yeah. So it has to have all these lessons of life. It's just born, it's barely walking. And so all the elephants come together and hide it. So that this, you know, the drooling hyenas, lions, tigers, cheetahs, all that, they don't see it and they don't say, easy lunch, you know. That's how it is. So then everything wants to survive. So the survival bhaya is the primal bhaya, really the greatest bhaya. But, you know, that survival bhaya comes from taking this body-mind sense complex, which is Namarupa, to be real. And that is what is, and not only to take this as real, means what? To identify with this as the ultimate thing. So when the body goes, I go. And if something happens to the mind, I go. If something happens to the possession, it's as good as attacking me. So these kinds of identifications are there. And that's why when you go somewhere and you see some person with a dog and you say, nice dog, the person says, thank you. But I didn't say anything about you. I said something about the dog. But the person says thank you because there is a tadatmya, identification with the dog. Same thing, you say, nice t-shirt. The person says, oh bhai, thank you. I didn't praise you, I praised the t-shirt. Thank you, because it's on me. The t-shirt oham, I am as good as the t-shirt. There is that identification. And this identification, or rather this misidentification, is avichara krito bandha, that we just spent such a long time studying about. Vichare na nivartate, this is the vichara we have to do. So this whole jagat, which is just a proliferation of this Bhagavan, this Paramatma, which includes me, that limitless consciousness, which is non-separate from me, which is the only thing of its kind, which is all knowledge, which is all contentment, which is all complete, which is without a second, that is what the whole Jagat is. Here I thought the Jagat is overflowing with not I, and this poor me is stuck in a corner. But what do I find out after reading the Shastra? That the Jagat is nothing but Bhagavan, spread everywhere. Wherever you look, there is Bhagavan. Yatra yatra mano yati, tatra tatra tava pada pankajam. Wherever the mind goes. And in Sanskrit we have a very interesting way. In all Indian languages we have an interesting way of doing this. Where the mind goes, yatra yatra, there, meaning wherever the mind goes, there is Bhagavan. There are your lotus feet, tava pada pankajam. You know, that is the first level of understanding, is that I see the whole world not as a proliferation of anatma, taking over this small little atma sitting here. That is the regular avichara krito bandha. But I see it as an extension and a proliferation of Bhagavan. Wherever I look, there is Bhagavan. All this is Bhagavan, 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 Bhagavan. And so my attitude towards the Jagat is not one of denial. You cannot say Jagat doesn't exist. All this is Maya. Sometimes people have a wrong understanding of Maya. They say Maya means delusion. Maya means illusion. It's not illusion. The world is not illusion. It has a certain reality that has to be adequately respected. That's why you don't go and put your head in the jaws of the tiger, even as a circus trick. They used to do this circus trick. First of all, caging that big animal, this big cat, and then giving it some meatballs, and then in between the meatballs, putting your head inside the trainer would put his or her head inside the jaws of the tiger and then take it out. And one day the tiger thought big meatball and jumped on it. Yeah, the person had to be rushed to the hospital, barely made it. You know, it was 116 stitches, sutures. Barely made it. So much blood was lost, they thought they had lost the trainer, but after that they stopped all these. And first of all, they put it on this small stool. It is such rank exploitation just for some, in the name of entertainment. Horrid. But this is what it is. So, we have a healthy respect for Jagat. It's not that you say, oh, you are non-existent. Who are you? Snake. And of course, every Vedantin makes the mistake of thinking everything is a rope. You encounter the snake and you say, it must be rope. You find out it's a snake the hard way, after it chomps and doesn't let go. Correct? So you have a healthy respect for things, for seasons, for hurricanes, especially for hurricanes, because they are sent by Harihi. That's why it's called hurricane. Hari has sent them. It is the manifestation of Lord Hari. And so really, I don't mess with all that. You know, everything is in its place. And so this is what is the understanding. Yatra yatra mano yati, tatra tatra tava pada pankajam. That is the first level. And then Vedanta, that is the preparation for Vedanta. And the second level is what? Yatra yatra mano, the ultimate understanding is Yatra yatra mano yati, tatra tatra samadhayaha. Yeah, wherever the mind goes. Wherever the mind goes, there is a resolution of the subject and the object, because I look upon everything as Ishvara. That Ishvara is non-separate from I, and so the subject encounters the object and the object is resolved. All there is the subject alone. Very beautiful. That is Jnanam. You know? Etad Jnanam iti proktam. This is Jnanam. And so Maya is not something to be afraid of. It is something to understand. She is something to understand with a wonderful attitude and a proper understanding. You can actually, enjoy Maya. That's what the whole thing is. That is why Bhagavan is always smiling, because the name for Bhagavan is Mayavi. Mayavin, the one that has won over Maya. Mayavin, Mayavi. Yeah, won over Maya. And Mayavi, meaning the one who doesn't come under the spell of Maya. Or Mayin, that also there. Mayin, and according to the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Mayam tu prakritim vidyat, Mayinam tu Maheshwaram. Ishvara does not come under the spell of Maya. It's like a magician. The magician should not look surprised when something is pulled out of the hat and it turns out to be a rabbit. The magician should not say, oh, where did this rabbit come from? I was wanting to pull out a scarf. Then it is not Maya. Then it is not a show. It has to be a show. And it is a show when? It is a show when the magician is not surprised. The show is for other people to be surprised. But the magician is never under the spell of the magic show. So too here, the show is there, and Bhagavan is Bhagavan because Bhagavan doesn't come under the spell of the magic. But you said, I am also Bhagavan. Yes, what also? You are that Bhagavan. How come I don't know it? Because there are so many more classes to remaining. And if I say everything right now, what will I do tomorrow? If I say everything right now, I will run out of material tomorrow. Correct? Yeah. So for right now, what we have to understand is Swamaya means it's a power non-separate from Bhagavan, because Maya cannot be a power other than Bhagavan because Advaya has come. Correct? Advaya has come. So Swamaya means it's a Shakti. What kind of Shakti? If it is a Shakti that is like Bhagavan has given birth to Maya and now is separate from Bhagavan, no. Kalpita Shakti. Kalpita is a made up Shakti, an as though Shakti, not real, as though Shakti. And this as though Shakti gives birth to the as though Jagat, as though. Got it? Say yes. Or say as though. So, that's what it is. Swamayaya, Swayameva Jagat Bhutva. So Bhagavan, quote unquote, becomes the Jagat. Doesn't become the Jagat. Becomes means what? Swaswarupa aparityagena. Rupantarapattihi. Swaswarupa aparityagena, without giving up one's own nature, rupa antarapattihi. As though takes on another nama, rupa, without giving up one's own nature. So that's what is Advaya and Purna, meaning this Purna, when it manifests as the Jagat, what does the Jagat become, Purna or Apurna? Purna. So Jagat is Purna. You are Purna. Bhagavan is Purna. So that's three Purnas. How can you say it's all one? It's not three, it's all one. Only. That Purna and this Purna are one Purna. That's what that closing mantra which we chant always say. Purna, 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 Purna. That's what it is. And so Swamayaya, through one's own Kalpita Shakti, Kalpita means an as though power that is non-separate from oneself, that whole Jagat has been Ishwarized. So the whole Jagat is Ishwarized. And therefore my mind is also Ishwarized. My Buddhi Ishwarized. And in this Ishwarization, there is no room for Apurna, there is no room for sorrow, there is no room for Maya also. What Maya? Maya is non-separate from Ishvara. Ishvara is not Maya, that's all. It's a force that is there, and that force, is what is sustaining this whole Jagat and is non-separate from this whole thing. It's that Ishvara is that Jagat is non-separate from Ishvara. Jagat resolves in Ishvara, Ishvara doesn't resolve. What about me? Who are you? Jiva. Yeah. That Jiva is also Ishvara. Swayameva Jagat Bhutva Pravishat, entered. When? A long time ago. Jiva Rupataha, entered the very form called Jiva. Oh, so there is no Jiva? No Jiva. There is only Ishvara? Yes, only Ishvara. Then why are we so bent out of shape? You have to answer that question. Why are you so bent out of shape? If all is Ishvara, then how come I am not Ananda? How come I am Apurna? That is not the question to ask. If all is Ishvara, then when will I know? How do I understand this? That is what. There is no question of why. There is only question of how. How to understand this? That we shall see more of that when? Tomorrow, same time. Okay? Now shall we meditate for a little bit? All right. Do I take this off? No.
You need to do Purnama. Change.
Yeah, we'll say Purnamadaha and we will do that. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.